Hey y'all, it's Rachel from TMR Farms, and I'm in a hotel room today, so if the backdrop looks a little bit different, it's because I'm actually on the road. But I thought while I was here and in kind of like a traveling mood kind of thing, and I have this really lovely window behind me in my hotel room, or not behind me, it's in front of me, so I have a really good lighting right now. I thought I'd go ahead and do another video that I've been planning to do, which is 5 quick little tips and tricks to have a fun road trip. I hope that y'all enjoy watching road trips because I have a lot more fun, exciting things planned for this year, and just going forward in general, I want to have more of the like travel vlog kind of videos. So I've been on a lot of different road trips. I usually go at least on a small road trip like at least a couple of times a year, even if it's something that I don't stay overnight and I just drive same day, which I have some of that planned this year as well. If it's within 4 hours drive, I will often just drive for one day, drive up there, do whatever I want to do and drive back. So I've done that quite a lot, and I really enjoy driving. It can be tiring, but I think it's a lot of fun, and I think when you drive somewhere you get to see a lot more of the countryside and a lot of different things and different opportunities and stuff that otherwise you might miss. I have some quick tips and tricks for you that will hopefully make your road trip experience a little bit better. Tip number 1 is to bring and wear comfortable clothing. So maybe it's just me, but when I get into like travel mode and I'm going to a new place and I'm gonna be, especially if I'm gonna be staying in a hotel, like if I'm staying in a hotel, to me, it puts me in this totally different mindset and makes me want to, I don't know, like dress up, I guess, and kind of put forth a little bit extra effort. Not that I, just like wear a paper sack all the time when I'm at home either. I get dressed up at home sometimes too, but there's something about traveling to a new place that makes me want to like go just a little bit further, just go that extra mile to dress a little bit cuter. That said, I do not abide by that rule when I'm in the car. So that's when you really want to have your comfortable clothing for a couple of reasons. One, a long car ride, if it's like getting 3 hours or more in a car, it starts to be uncomfortable. You're cramped, you can't move around, you can't walk, there's not a lot of leg space, you're constricted with your seat belt, and the seats are not that comfortable, and it just starts to get uncomfortable. And so if you're already uncomfortable and then you add uncomfortable clothing on top of that, anything that's tight and restrictive or that's just like not a comfortable fabric or whatever, it's gonna make you even more uncomfortable and even more ready to get out of the car. Reason number 2 why you want to wear comfortable and especially loose-fitting clothing when you're on a long car ride is because when you're in a car, like I said, you're not being able to move very frequently. You're not able to stand up and walk around. And that it can be kind of restrictive to our lymphatic system. So if you're familiar with the lymphatic system, you know that it is a system of like lymph nodes in our body that transports fluids around to kind of, it's part of our body's filtering system. When we are stationary, those fluids do not flow like they should. Unlike our circulatory system with our heart that pumps our blood and helps our blood circulate on its own, our lymphatic system does not have that. Our lymph fluids circulate strictly based on our own body movements. And when we're not moving a lot, our lymph system it's not flowing a lot either. And another thing that can prevent it from flowing really well also is any tight fitting clothing. So if you're sitting in a car, you're already stationary, that's hurting your lymph fluids flowing, and you're also wearing restrictive clothing that's tight on your body, that's gonna restrict the flow of those lymph fluids as well. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes if you're in a car, you may notice like swelling in your feet and ankles or something like that. So it's really good to wear loose-fitting clothing that's not gonna restrict the flow of your fluids as much through your body to help prevent problems with that. And it's also great to get out and stretch your legs. Tip number 2 is to stay hydrated. No one wants to have to stop to pee every 5 minutes on a road trip. It does get really annoying when you have to stop for bathroom breaks, especially if like one person has to go more often than the other person and the other person's like, why do we keep stopping to go to the bathroom? So it can be just kind of our natural tendency to not drink a whole lot of water when we're in the car. And I do this too, and I do it intentionally as well. I don't drink a whole lot of fluids when I'm riding in the car because I don't want to have to add those extra stops to go to the bathroom more frequently. However, that's not actually good for our bodies to be dehydrated like that. So what I personally do is the day before I know I'm going to be in the car, I will try to drink lots of water, extra water, more than what I normally would, which I probably need to be doing on a daily basis anyway, because most of us are dehydrated a little bit, or chronically dehydrated, because most of us don't drink enough water. So the day before I will drink lots of water. The day of, I won't drink very much because I don't want to go on extra stops. But then the day after, I will also start drinking tons and tons of water again. Not like an insane amount, because you can become overhydrated and that's not good for you either. But I drink enough to replenish my body's fluids. Tip number 3 is to be flexible. So don't let yourself get trapped too much in the timing of things and in everything going according to plan, because it's probably not going to. I understand, you know, sometimes if you have to be somewhere at a certain time because that's when your ticket's for, or because you are traveling like with work or something, so that can put certain constraints on it that you do need to keep up with your scheduling and your timing. But that said, don't overthink it. Don't get too overly upset if you start to run behind. The thing is, you know, stuff like that, you can't control it. There's nothing you can do if you get stuck behind a wreck on the interstate. There's nothing you can do if somebody or something gets sick. You can't change that. So the best thing to do is just have a flexible attitude, roll with the punches, and make the best of what you've got, and just try to keep going without letting it totally ruin your entire experience. And that leads me to tip number 4, which is to give yourself extra time. Leave earlier than you think you need to leave, because something is going to happen and you're going to be running later than you thought you were. And again, those are things outside of your control, but something that you can control is to leave yourself extra time to get wherever you're going. So don't just, you know, say, well, if I leave at noon, then I'll get there at 4. So I need to leave at noon so I can get there at 4, because if your GPS is telling you that your travel from point A to point B is going to take 4 hours, you should really add at least another hour to that. So always add some extra time to your trip to give you a little bit of wiggle room. And that also gives you wiggle room as well if you see something fun, like on the side of the road, you just happen to pass like an antique store that you want to go to, or a museum or anything like that. There's lots of things that you may not be aware of that you didn't know were going to be on the way to wherever you're going, but that look really cool and you want to stop and do it. And if you add yourself some extra time, then you can stop and do some of those things, and you can take your time and slow down. And I really think that's part of just like the fun of going on a road trip, is the unexpected things. Like, it's fun to have an itinerary, it's fun to have things that you've planned, but what usually ends up being the most fun is the stuff that you did not plan. And that brings me to point number 5, which is don't overschedule yourself. Once you get to where you're going and you're on your trip, it's great to have a plan of different things that you want to do. In fact, I would definitely recommend researching ahead of time before you go. Find out what's in the area, find out the kind of stuff you can do, and plan to go do some of those things that you really want to do. But don't overschedule it, because if you do that, then you don't leave room for yourself to have spontaneous activity. The best trips that I have ever been on have been where we had a couple things in mind, but then we were just kind of spontaneous about it. Just those spontaneous moments that end up being the most memorable and the best. Like when my dad and I went to Baltimore, I had planned out a couple of like restaurants I wanted to do, and I wanted to go walk by the river or the bay or whatever it's called there on the inner harbor, and I wanted to eat crab cakes, which I did, and all of that was really fun. But I would say the most fun part of that trip was when we decided spontaneously to go to the National Aquarium in Baltimore. And that was kind of crazy how it worked out, because we had not planned to go, and the tickets were like $50 a person or something like that. It was really expensive, and we walked by and I was like, oh, this is too expensive, we're not going to do that. But then as I was walking by, the ticket thing, they put it on sale, and I think it was like half price or something like that, because it was like the last shift of the day, and it was like, we went in March. I was going for an English conference that I was reading a paper at anyway, but it was like the end of the season. They had the special going on, and the tickets were a lot cheaper, and we could get like 2 for the price of 1. So we were like, hey, we actually should do this while it's cheap. And that aquarium was so cool, and it was just a really neat experience. It's just those fun, spontaneous things that end up really making the trip the best. So you've got to leave room for that. You can't overschedule yourself, because you really want to have time to do the spontaneous fun things, and that's where the really fun stuff happens, is when it's unplanned and unexpected, and you just get to go and have a good time. So those are just 5 tips that I've found that make road trips a little bit better and a little bit more fun. So thank you for watching. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Tiramar Farms, all those places. And be sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss future videos. And let me know in the comments your favorite place that you've ever been. I'd really love to hear about your favorite trips and what you liked about them, and where you went and why it was fun and all of that good stuff, because I'm always looking for suggestions of new places to visit. And I will see y'all next time.